Hello and welcome to another Fully Charged news update. Before I start, I want to give a special shout out to two amazing Patreon supporters who've contacted me because I've never mentioned their names. And a lot of people are going to contact me. I know that's going to happen, but you know, it's good. This is Petter Duvander, Petter, and Laura Reynolds. Now, you may notice something about Laura Reynolds' name. It's the name of a woman. Yes, there are quite a few now women who support Fully Charged on Patreon, and there's an increasing number watching, but it is still very low, and that's got a lot to do with me, and we're doing some major exciting changes with other presenters, some of whom might be women. Hey, yeah, that's how radical and politically correct we are. Anyway, first of all, a little bit of history. Now, my age. Well, that is a bit of history because I was born back in 1956 when everything was still black and white. Yeah, okay, so 1956 was an enormously long time ago, but interestingly, it was peak coal use in the British Isles. Our use of coal has steadily fallen since then, and it's dropped off a cliff in the last 3 years. Burning coal to generate electricity dropped by 52% in 2016. Emissions from generating power have dropped by such an enormous amount that emissions from road transport have now risen to a worrying second place. Whenever I check the national grid statistics now, wind is generally a higher percentage of the total than coal. And wind generation is growing very, very fast. Huge wind farms are being installed in the North Sea and off the coast around the British Isles as I speak. Now, contrary to some populist rhetoric, renewables actually make electricity cheaper. Yes, that's a bit of a shock, isn't it? Electricity prices haven't risen since we've installed more renewables. In fact, they've either stayed the same or dropped down and got cheaper. Yes, I know that natural gas that we import from Russia has taken up some of the slack left by coal, but renewables are without question the fastest growing sector in the energy market, not only in this country, but globally. That's the first bit of history. The second bit is a little bit more recent. This just dates back to the 25th of March 2017. You may not have noticed, in fact, that this was an historic day. For the first time ever in the British Isles, the Saturday afternoon peak demand for electricity was lower than the lowest point in the middle of the previous night. What? Well, how does that work? I mean, normally it's much, much higher than the middle of the night. The middle of the night is like the lowest point of demand ever, and now the afternoon's the lowest point. I mean, what's going on? Now, Saturday, the 25th of March, was an unusually sunny day for the British Isles, and the amount of solar power generated during that point was clearly very, very high. This is coming from thousands and thousands of households and schools and factories and offices that have installed solar on the rooftops, and they have it metered and they've got inverters, and all that electricity goes into the grid or is used on site by the people who've got it on their roofs. And what does that do? That means that the overall demand from the national grid is lowered. We're demanding less electricity because this is one of the peculiarities of solar. Because there's so many hundreds of thousands of different installations, it's not measured by the national grid as a kind of direct input into the national grid. No, it's measured as a drop in demand. So if you've got solar panels and you've got the oven on, you're not demanding electricity from the grid, so that shows as a drop in overall national demand. So on the 25th of March this year, the demand was so low that we actually burnt less of Mr. Putin's gas and Poland's coal. What this tells us, beyond any silly coal-waving arguments to the contrary, is that solar power actually works in the British Isles, and it's already saving us hundreds of millions of pounds a year in imported fuel costs. And the renewables industry continues to grow around the world. It already employs more people in this country and in the United States than the coal industry. But please don't tell the orange one, because he might get upset, and he's very delicate. We've got to be careful. Now, talking of he with the realistic hair, here's a story that will either make you giggle or sigh in despair, or indeed start tweeting #fake news at 3 o'clock in the morning. When I was in Sydney, Australia, I met a remarkable young man called Ketan Joshi. Now, his job is amazing, and it's so complicated I'm actually going to read it out to make sure I get it right, okay? So Ketan works in renewables operational monitoring and data analysis in Sydney, and he explains that his passions are communicating complex technical concepts in highly accessible ways, seeking to entertain and educate rather than compromise or patronize. Isn't that clever? Wish I could do that. God. Now, this isn't a news story. This actually happened back in 2013, but I hadn't heard it before, and when Ketan told me, I really think it deserves a mention. Now, he was so frustrated about the way that anecdotal evidence about the impacts of wind turbines are reported in the Australian press that he put together a very clever and beautifully done infographic about it. The graphic explained that there are 216 distinct symptoms that are caused by wind turbines. These include wall staring in dogs. Yes, you heard me right. Wall staring. Dogs staring at walls. Vibrating lips. Egg abnormalities in chickens. Reduced wool quality in sheep. Missing eyeballs and tails in cattle. And of course, the one we all know about, prayer problems for the religious. What? Prayer problems for the religious. Don't pray near a wind turbine. You'll have problems. So Ketan posted this really clever infographic, and a few weeks later, a certain orange one who owns a funny little golf course on the Scottish coast started tweeting about it because he hated offshore wind turbines that you could see from his golf course. And this proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that wind turbines were lethal and dangerous and caused prayer problems in the religious. Yes, the orange one fell for the most glaringly obvious satire about the ridiculousness of anecdotal evidence. And in fact, the very self-same piece of infographic contained this vitally important quote right in the middle. Thinking anecdotally comes naturally. Thinking scientifically does not. You'd think that would give you a clue, but no. Now, on a much more refreshing note, hey dude, where is my flying car? Well, according to Airbus Industries, it's literally just over the horizon. Now, okay, I'm going to be critical here because a lot of people think I'm not being critical enough when I see new developments and new technology. So I'm going to be really critical. This is barking mad, but I love it. Flying is intrinsically dangerous, and machines with high-speed whirring blades landing in public parks are deeply worrying. But I like the idea of what Airbus are calling the Pop-Up, a multimodal base vehicle, which in my world means a detachable pod thingy that can be a car, go on a train, or fly when a massive drone hooks onto it. That's what it is. The little base thing with wheels toddles off and gets recharged or used by someone else. Amazing. What an amazing idea. Barking mad, but I love it. And finally, as I've gone a little bit solar-tastic in this episode, here's a couple of just quick extra solar stories. I love this new service that Google has just launched. It's called Project Sunroof. Based on Google Earth, it reveals how many rooftops in the United States of America have a viable roof space for solar panels, taking into account the angle of the sun, the shading of other buildings or trees, etc. A full 79% of all rooftops in the United States are viable to have solar fitted to them. That is a lot of roof. Sadly, so far this system is only working in the United States, but as they say in cutting-edge software circles, we're going to be rolling it out over the next year or so. And India has just unveiled the world's largest solar farm. The facility in Tamil Nadu can produce 648 megawatts of electricity and covers an area of 10 square kilometres. That's quite big. This pushes India's total solar generating capacity to 10 gigawatts. Yes, of course, I've got to be balanced. Yes, of course, they're still burning coal. Of course, there are enormous social inequality problems in India. There's still enormous problems with pollution in their cities, but they are at least installing more solar than anyone else in the world. Well, okay, just this one solar farm is bigger than anybody else's. It is, it's bigger. Deal with it, it's bigger. Oh, well, now that's all I have time for this time, but I just want to list a few more of the incredible people that support Fully Charged on Patreon for $10 a month or more. I mean, it is incredible. We're massively grateful. And as I always say, and I know it's boring, but it is true, we could not do this without you. Here we go. These are the amazing people. Martin Dell, Lee Bamber, David Gore, Michael Tong, Greg Jaskowitz, John Hart, Richard Green, Nick Walpole, Jonathan Porterfield, and Russ Swindle. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a look at the Patreon link. You know, no pressure at all. Never any pressure to do that. And as always, if you have been, thank you for watching.